Let's get it. A little 5-minute episode here. We'll have some fun. Hobby with Cage, episode 208, brought to you by Arena Club and Bleaker Trading. 5 minutes of hobby thoughts. Guys, I posted last week after the Knicks lost to Indiana, and even talked about it on an episode here, how, in my opinion, the OKC versus Indiana series would be the biggest nightmare that could possibly befall the NBA, because those are two very small market teams. You could argue that SGA, being the MVP, has some marquee power, but he really doesn't. He's never really accomplished anything. His style of play is not exactly fan friendly, drawing so many fouls. He reminds me of sort of like a Neymar type player. If anybody who watches soccer knows the reference. And then, you got What the Hally over in Indiana. I mean, he's more of a villain here in New York. But, I mean, marquee power, none. And, the Pacers and the Thunder, while it's cool to see teams in there that, have never really won before and maybe get a chance to win, they're not big markets. They're not going to draw ratings. And, one of the things I said was, this is not great for the NBA. And, ratings came out, proving me right yet again. I mean, how many times have you guys listened to me? Am I going to be right? But it had a 4.7 rating, which means less than 9 million total people watched game one. When the Nielsen ratings came out in the 80s and they started tracking this stuff, never has the NBA Finals game one had worse viewership, a worse rating than that. So it is, again, me right, everybody else wrong. But what's funny about it is people are actually arguing with me about this, that people are going to tune in. It's great to see these young players, scrappy players play, and, it's going to be awesome. And people are still arguing with me today, right before I make this episode here about it. And yeah, great. If you want to watch these guys play, maybe if you're from, you're from Indiana, or from OKC, it's great to watch. OKC did a lot of moves in the years coming up to this, where they made a lot of trades. They built up a lot of draft capital. They built up a nice young team. But here's the 5-minute thoughts that I have on this. I'm old enough to remember times where star power was not leading the NBA, where the game was different than it was now, and viewership was down. We also had it in MLB for a while when steroids were the big topic, or when there was a strike in the mid-90s. And since this is a hobby podcast, the thought that I have for today is, how does viewership numbers impact the hobby? And it does. When people aren't watching the game for a myriad of reasons, not just because of the teams that are in the finals, but because of the style of play, the way the game's being played, when people aren't watching it, it follows that they're probably not going to be dedicating some of their disposable income to buying cards of the players. And one of the things that worries me about the NBA now that we've gone into analytics and chucking up threes, and I watched the other day a fast break, and you got a 2-on-0 coming down the court, which normally in my exciting era would have been one guy passing it to another and a huge dunk with the crowd roaring and some excitement. If it's not Anthony Edwards on that 2-on-0, that's not what happens. Somebody pulls up at the 3-point line and shoots a 3. With no defender, with a guaranteed 2, they're going to take a shot at a 3, because that's what analytics say to do. That is ugly. When you combine that crap with the fact that what everybody does now in a half-court offense is just try to draw fouls. It's whistles. It's an interrupted game. It's trying to draw fouls. It's become almost soccer-like, and the people flopping all over the court. And it's the game, which was a much more television-friendly, clippable-friendly game, is now just it's a difficult watch. And you're losing your stars. Your LeBron is aging out and now very difficult to watch, trying to draw fouls every game. Your KD is aging. Steph Curry is aging. And you don't really have that star that's stepping up. Jordan to Kobe to LeBron. Who is that? Wemby? Nah. So my worry is less about the ratings of Indiana. And I got dopes in my DMs telling me how wrong I am. But from a hobby perspective, who's going to carry this for the next couple of years? I guess the hope is maybe Cooper Flagg comes out and he's the great white hope in Dallas. And, here he is, But who's going to be the person that gets people excited? Because it certainly wasn't this last draft class of Alexander Sarr and Kel'el Ware, and none of the guys in the draft classes for the 5 years before that have really stepped up. I mean, go all the way back to Zion and Ja. Zion's fat, Ja's shooting things, LaMelo, Anthony Edwards. Yeah, he's Michael Jordan's son. The actor, maybe. I mean, all these guys, hype and nothing. It gets you a little worried, or at least my thoughts. It gets me a little worried on this unwatchable sport of the NBA, and people are dedicating a lot of money to it. I don't know whether that is sustainable. Let me know what you think. And there's my 5 minutes of the day. Talk to you guys soon. Brought to you by Arena Club and Bleecker Trading. Gotta get that in there. Bye, everybody.